Hi there, Sandra here, and welcome back to my channel and to another video. This is the third of 4 illustrations I made for a Camellia exhibition, which was going to take place toward the end of March, but it has postponed to next year. If you want to hear why and the full story, check my first video, which I will link the video on top right in the card and in the description, where I explained everything. But yeah, in short words, during February I made 4 illustrations about camellias, and the theme for the exhibition was Fantastic Park, which fantastic could also be interpreted as fantasy. One of my main ideas for the illustrations was to include bugs with camellias, so by changing the color of the flowers, leaves or bugs or both to convey the feeling of a fantastic surrounding. But since I didn't want to make all the illustrations with bugs and I wanted to differentiate them from one to another for not being too repetitive with both the subject and image composition, while I was brainstorming ideas, I was thinking what else I could integrate with camellias flowers that could remind of a park. And whenever I think of camellias, I think of Japan because one of the most known species of camellias is called Camellia japonica, and they also reminds me of old Japanese prints. I'm not sure exactly what is the story and connection of camellias flowers to Japan, but when I went to Japan last year, I visited many Japanese gardens in many cities which were absolutely beautiful, and to my surprise, many of those had small waterfall, which is not very common in parks around Switzerland. They are called garden, but to me they felt like park as well. Asia has always been one of my biggest inspiration in art, and I thought it would be nice to add waterfall for one of these illustrations. I had other ideas of including small fountains instead of waterfall, because those are things you can find in park as well, but it just looked better with waterfalls. And well, it was also the perfect excuse for me to make more waterfall paintings, as I love making them. You might remember my waterfall illustration series that I created and I uploaded on my channel last year. If you're new to my channel and you haven't watched them, I highly recommend to check them out, since some of them are some of my favorite illustrations I created ever. So I will leave the link to those videos on top right in the card and in the description. So it's not a surprise that one of them is very similar to this one, where there are waterfall and camellia flowers, which was inspired by Japan. I don't like to repeat myself in my drawings. I mean, I don't like to draw the same things over and over because I feel like I get stuck without making improvements in my art. So I like to challenge myself and create different paintings, but I think it's okay for once to repeat what I've done in the past. And the idea of adding a waterfall for one of these illustrations for this exhibition, it worked, and it's not too far stretched from the Fantastic Park theme. These red camellias I drew for this piece are called Camellia japonica Korean fire, and they are definitely one of my favorite camellias that really reminds me of Japan. They are pretty easy to draw and paint because they don't have many petals like other camellias, but I have to admit that every time I paint flowers, I struggle painting the pistil, not sure how to pronounce it, the center of the flower with filaments. I can never paint them in the way I want, in a more realistic way, which I guess I just need to practice more in drawing them. So during the painting process, I had to repaint some of these flowers and lay down the color again to add more red and depth in order for the pistil to pop out and stand out, and repaint the details, because sometimes reactivating gouache, it can be tricky, especially if you laid down a thick application of paint, and by re-wetting the paint, the wash and finish look can be ruined. So yeah, sometimes gouache can get tricky also for me, but in these cases I simply overlay a new layer of color on top so that the wash become even and smooth again. I hope I explained myself well and I hope it makes sense. And in terms of composition, this one is one of my least favorite among the 4 illustrations I made, which even during the sketching process I was struggling a bit to find a composition that I liked and that worked well. But don't get me wrong, because I like the composition and I think the color and space are well balanced, but I don't find it as good as the others. Maybe it's missing something, but I don't know. But I absolutely love the colors here. As a matter of fact, I love working with blue and red the most. And I also made a few little mistakes painting the waterfall and one of the leaves on the left side of the painting. Not sure if you will notice it. I removed one of the branch because I changed the direction and composition of the leaves at the last minute because I just didn't like it. But again, I'm very glad that with gouache I can change things and fix my mistakes. And it might not seem so, but I always change things while painting once I work with colors, and I often make mistakes. I'm not talking about terrible mistakes that ruin the painting. That happens too, but not in this case, but more like one line is outside the outline and edges, or one line is a different color. Small things like that, which are almost unnoticeable mistakes that only me knows about it and see it. But I think those little imperfections is what makes the painting more real, unique and personal, and more relatable in a way. Because nobody is perfect, and neither our art and our paintings are perfect to our eyes. But that's okay, and it still has its own charm. Probably if I would have used another paper, like a 100% cotton paper, which has the best paint absorbency, it wouldn't have been so easy to erase my mistake and remove part of the paint from the painting. So whenever I need to paint important illustrations like these ones, my go-to and my safe choice of paper is the Hahnemüle Torchon watercolor paper. It is a very unique paper that I think not everyone likes it, but it's one of my favorite paper to paint with gouache. If you're interested and if you haven't watched it yet, I made a video about my favorite papers I use for painting with gouache, which I will link the video on top right in the card and in the description. And for the final piece, this illustration has red sparkles around, as mentioned in my previous video, and I think the sparkles looks well for this one, but let me know what do you think about it. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I will let you enjoy the rest of the video and the painting process with some background music, and I will see you in the next video for the last Camellia illustration. Bye!